Bienvenidos a una nueva edición de Protagonistas de la Neurodiversidad en el Trabajo. Soy Fernando Rivera y en esta edición exploraremos por qué las empresas están adoptando cada vez más prácticas neuroinclusivas y cómo estos esfuerzos benefician tanto a los empleados como a las organizaciones. Nuestra invitada de hoy, Bridget Killoury, una reconocida experta en el campo, va a compartir con nosotros ideas sobre las fortalezas cognitivas y las perspectivas únicas que las personas neurodivergentes traen a la mesa. También vamos a hablar de los retos comunes a los que se enfrentan y exploraremos estrategias para crear entornos de trabajo verdaderamente inclusivos. Tanto si eres un líder empresarial, un profesional de recursos humanos o del área de diversidad, o simplemente estás interesado en comprender mejor la neurodiversidad, este episodio es para ti. Bridget es experta en neurodiversidad, brindando talleres de capacitación a organizaciones sobre cómo crear culturas y prácticas neuroinclusivas en el lugar de trabajo en países angloparlantes, además de brindar apoyo de coaching neurodivergente uno a uno con un enfoque basado en fortalezas neuroafirmativas. Bridget, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi. Yeah, no, thank you for having me on finally. It's good to be able to talk to you.
We are really happy to have you here. Well, from your first world perspective, why are companies embracing neurodiversity?
So it's finally the times are shifting a little bit. The best way to put it is the definition of neurodiversity is like neurodiversity, as in different perceptions. Companies are embracing it now because in today's like competitive market edge, like the edge that neurodivergent people give. So the best way I can put it is like we have a phrase called like two heads are better than one. But what about a multifaceted perspective instead of two heads? And I think that's why companies are starting to embrace neurodivergence. They're recognizing the holistic strengths that different cognitive styles can bring to a business when looking at problems, solutions, innovative ideas. Like the list is endless. So yeah, people are finally starting to embrace it over here and globally, I believe, more.
I often say that including neurodiversity in the workplace is not only the right thing to do, but it's also a necessity. And taking into account that companies have business objectives, they can take advantage of managing neurodiverse talent with other benefits such as impact of the employer brand on others. Could you please share examples of companies leading the way in neuroinclusion or real-life examples of how these cognitive strengths have benefited businesses?
So we all know, I think it was Google and Microsoft that both pioneered this quite a few years ago now. And the results that came from that were just undisputable. And then Deloitte picked it up in 2018 as well. As I was telling you before, it's quite difficult because there's not a lot of data on this because it is a bit newer. Companies are embracing it slower. So the numbers are still evolving. But Deloitte's paper, like what they did with their study, they showed that like teams that were more diverse, that had neurodiverse people on them, were 30% more productive. Also reduced like risk by 30% as well because of the cognitive style of attention to detail. So spotting like error mistakes. Companies twice as likely to meet or exceed their financial targets. 6 times more innovative altogether. 3 times more likely to be high performing, and 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes altogether. As I was saying, I will give you the paper to link to this because the numbers are remarkable and it makes sense. It's just nice to actually have some quantitative data on it. So yeah, and the real life examples, again, as we said, are if you've got different cognitive styles looking at the same problem, you're going to get a different result, mostly a better result, because you've got different, it's like a kaleidoscope lens. So yeah, it's exciting, and it's been on the news here as well recently as well. So it's really speeding up. People are starting to embrace this finally.
Wow, impressive. And what are the common challenges that companies have to face and their solutions?
So one of the biggest things that we need to be careful about, it's called like superhuman or superpower neurodivergent people. So only talking about the strengths, it does come with difficulties and challenges as well that businesses need to be aware of. One of the biggest ones is sensory sensitivities, if we were to say across the board. So for example, I'm ADHD and I have auditory sensitivity. So if you put me in a busy office, you would not get the best work from me. So companies need to make adjustments. So using my example, if you gave me a quiet corner, you will get the best work from me. But if you put me in the center where there's lots of noise, I can't concentrate. So some of the challenges are just talking to each individual, because every neurodivergent person has their different difficulty, and then finding a way to accommodate whatever their sensitivity or challenge may be. And it is so varied, but it's one of the biggest things is companies think it's going to be really expensive in this massive overhaul,
Mhm.
but adjustments can either cost next to nothing or be completely free. It can
Yeah.
be something like a quiet corner, a more flexible working schedule, um, even like a small keyboard. It's inexpensive for the benefits that you get from it. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us your personal example because it's so graphic, so clear.
Mm,
Yes, as you said, uh, most of the time those adjustments cost almost nothing. Yes,
mm,
and uh, and the results and the impact are huge.
yeah.
Um, Please, Bridget, tell us about the neuroaffirmative coaching
Mhm.
field where you are a specialist.
So this links in with companies embracing neurodivergence. It's basically a strengths-based approach to neurodivergence. So using whatever quirky little challenge or quirky strength that we have. So mine is best example to use, I'm extremely creative. I can hyper focus for like hours and hours and end. So using my strength to help deal with some of the challenges I may face. So neuroaffirmative coaching doesn't try and change the individual or make them feel less for how they are. It just validates, yes, you have a different cognitive learning style. So let's use your strengths of your cognitive learning style to deal with some of the challenges. So I've had to put things in place like timing reminders, for example, but I would use my strength and my creativity about hacking myself to put in my own adjustments, like timers on my phone. So it's finding ways to work with each individual from first person perspective. Um, so it's a person-centered approach, treating every person as different and letting them lead the way on what they think will work for them and what they struggle with, and then working alongside them that way. And I also, to summarize, I liken it to like holding up a mirror to somebody. So you hold up a mirror to somebody's strengths and their weaknesses, but you reflect off the strengths onto the weaknesses and you work together. But yeah, it's acting as if it's not me that's got the answers, it's the person. I just act as a mirror to help them get there.
Great, you are
Um,
so clear. Wonderful. We know that every step of the employee journey is critical for a successful neurotragedy, and for decision makers who are listening to us in this moment,
mhm,
how to build a neuro-inclusive workplace from recruitment to retention.
mhm. You're right. I mean, it starts with the recruitment aspect, which is, let's say, job descriptions. We'll go from the very beginning. one of the traits of autism, for example, that spans into other conditions is this thing called concrete thinking. So they may read a job description, and if they don't meet everything that's on there, or if the language is ambiguous, it will dissuade them from applying in the first place. So it's about altering job descriptions to be clear and straightforward about what the expectations are, and then the neurodivergent individual knows what to expect and is more likely to apply. And then from there, it's also changing the assessment methods. So obviously we know traditional interviews, but it tests soft skills that people with neurodivergence sometimes struggle with. So like social communication, eye contact, and it'll screen people out immediately. We have assessment centers as well, where you would go with like, let's say, 20 other candidates and you do group exercises. Like that might not work for somebody, again, like myself, who can't deal with noise. So it's finding flexible assessment methods to see whether the neurodivergent person will fit the company, but for the neurodivergent person to see whether the company will fit them as well, if they will make those adjustments. And it's a reinforcing circle. So it starts with HR, doesn't it? Because it's also about training. So let's say we have the assessment methods and we're onboarding a neurodivergent employee. You want to onboard them into an environment where colleagues and managers also understand neurodivergence. So some of the behaviors can be seen as rude. So, lack of eye contact, for example, or these what we would call weird things that come with neurodivergence. If you are entering a workforce that understands that, you're going to feel accepted, and it's going to make it more likely for you to be able to concentrate on the job at hand, and also more likely for you to stay at the company. So it starts with clear job descriptions, flexible assessment methods, training your staff, but training your leaders is one of the biggest ones, because the supervisors are the ones that the neurodivergent individual should be able to go to if they're struggling, if they require an adjustment, like a flexible schedule. And if an adjustment isn't working, they should feel comfortable enough to go back and say, hey, can we try something else? So you need to train your team leaders to know how to deal with this as well. And yeah, then it's reinforcing when you see the benefits of it. Everybody's happy because you're making the workplace more inclusive, not just for neurodivergent people, but for neurotypical people as well. So it's just this culture of openness and acceptance, which breeds collaboration and innovation. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely, totally agree. How can we say about the impact on the personal life of the neurodivergent person? Is it real change, right?
Yes, because it's acceptance. We have grown up in a world that we use the word, deficit, disorder, like these problem conditions. This is how the DSM-5, the criteria are used, rather than focusing on the strengths. So growing up being different, if you were to enter a workplace that understands you and that supports your strengths and helps you grow, there's the world of difference. It increases confidence, self-esteem, which then breeds back into the company, because the neurodivergent person's more likely to share ideas, to talk to people. It's everything, and feeling like you belong also makes you want to give your best work output to that company. So the benefits are just insane for the individual, which then has a knock-on effect for the company as well.
Wonderful. Bridget, it's really nice to listen to you, and it was really great to have you join us. We all know that the UK is at the forefront of policies and practices relating to the inclusion of neurodiversity in the workplace. And considering that, having you here with us is a privilege. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so working with neurodiversity in business at the moment that are partnered with the government. So there is a real appetite for it in the UK. So let that be inspiration that this movement is happening. And I feel like companies that jump on board and lead it are going to be the ones that get the best results, because there's an untapped talent pool at the moment. So I encourage anyone that's listening to this to take inspiration from that and to lead the crowd, not to follow it.
Great. So again, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And, hay talento oculto para nuestras organizaciones, hay que descubrirlo, esté disponible afuera o lo tengamos adentro, no lo sepamos y estemos perdiendo la oportunidad de que expresen al máximo nivel sus capacidades, permitiéndoles una realización profesional plena que repercuta, como decíamos recién con Bridget, positivamente en sus vidas. Recordemos que el neurodivergente es un colectivo que atraviesa transversalmente todos los colectivos de la diversidad, por lo tanto, no considerarlo en nuestras estrategias es tener incompleta la agenda de DNA. Soy Fernando Rivera, los espero en la próxima edición de Protagonistas de la Neurodiversidad del Trabajo.